Hey guys, it's Gina Milicia from ginamilicia.com, and today I want to show you how to improve the appearance of an image with noise. Now, noise is something that you'll get in an image where you shoot at high ISO, like this one I've shot at 25,600. Now, if I zoom in, you can see the little flecks of noise in the image and the like random blotches of color. Now that is noise, and it's not just high ISO images that you'll see this in. If I've got an image here, this was actually shot at an ISO of 100, but the image itself is underexposed. Now if I go ahead and try and adjust the exposure, so I might give it a bit more exposure and open up the shadows here. If I zoom in here to the areas that are underexposed, you can see that I've picked up some extra noise in the image. So I've got these random colors and the appearance of this extra grain-like quality to the image, which reduces the overall appearance of the image. It's not very pretty, but it can be easily improved in Lightroom. Now, when we look at an image and look at the quality of the noise in the image, you can see that the noise is made up of a couple of different types. So if I go ahead and zoom in on this image here, you can see that there is the appearance of it looks grainy, but you can also see that there is the color shift, the blotches of color, so that these should be, it's green bamboo, and yet the noise has introduced all sorts of different color artifacts. There's pinks and blues, and they shouldn't be there. And there's also the grain. So if we have a look at this image on the screen now, you can see where I've taken a section of the image, and you can see that the noise is a combination of two different kinds of noise. So there's luminance noise, which is actually the grain-like appearance of the image, and color noise, which are the color shifts of the image. And it's the color noise that is probably the most unattractive part of the noise. So knowing this, we can adjust the image in two separate ways. We can tackle the luminance noise and reduce the appearance of grain, and we can also attack the color noise and reduce the appearance of the color shift in the image. So let's have a look at how that looks now. Okay, so here's my image on the screen, and I'm just going to zoom back into the area that we were talking about. And so you can see that I've got two different kinds of noise. I've got the luminance noise, and I've also got the color noise. Now, the luminance noise, the appearance of grain, isn't actually that bad. So the first thing I want to tackle is the color noise. So I've got my color slider, and if I just slide that across, you can see that the appearance of color noise is actually going away. And I've also got the other option, the slider. I can add more color detail as I go across to the right, or reduce the appearance of color detail as I go across to the left. So I think somewhere around the middle is okay. And then I've got the smoothness slider, and that will improve the appearance of the transition from one color to the other. So as I go all the way across to the right, you can see that the colors take on a more muted look, and over to the left, slightly brighter. So again, somewhere in the middle is okay. And I can have a look at that, and it's not looking too bad at all. Now I can tackle the actual luminance noise, which is the appearance of the pixels or the grain here in the image, or the look of grain. So as I move the slider across, you can see that it's smoothing out the pixels, but we're also losing detail. So it's a matter of finding a spot where I've still got some grain there, because it does give the image a nice quality, and I'm retaining some detail, because as I go all the way across, I'm also losing detail in the image. So in this instance, I don't need to go too high in my luminance reduction. So somewhere around there is fine. And you can see that I've got before, after, it's looking pretty good. I've managed to eliminate the noise in that image. Let's have a look at an image that is very high ISO. So here's the image, 25,600. The noise and the luminance in there, or the grain, or the appearance of grain, is just awful. It's like the colors are terrible. Was a very dark night. There wasn't a lot of available light, and this image itself is a little bit underexposed. So we can see that there's just so much noise in that image. So what I'll do first is I'm going to tackle the color noise. And you can see that Lightroom does a really good job of tackling the color noise, and all I'm left with is the luminance noise. And if I don't like how pronounced all those pixels are, I can come in and just soften that slightly, and now I've got an image that's looking pretty good. The appearance of noise is greatly reduced. The appearance of the pixels, that grainy look, is also reduced, but I've still managed to retain some of the fine details. I mean, it's always going to be a challenge when you're shooting in such low lighting conditions, but I have managed to improve the overall appearance of the image and reduce the noise. So that's something that you can have a play around with. The other image that I want to show you is this one here. So I've got the image, the original, where it was shot. Let's just show the... So here it was, underexposed completely. So I can come in and I can adjust my exposure. I can open up the shadows. But when I come in, I've got all this noise here in the image. So what I want to do is reduce the appearance. So I come down here, and the first thing I want to do is tackle the color noise. All right, so get that to a spot where it's looking pretty good there. We've managed to reduce the color noise. Once you get rid of the color noise, the appearance of the luminance noise or the grain doesn't look that bad. So I tend to not use the luminance slider all that much. I might just come in and reduce that a little bit, just so the noise there is a little bit smoother, but it doesn't need a lot. And I can play around with the detail slider, and as I increase it, you can see that I'm picking up the little flecks of red there. So you just want to go to a point where you're not picking up any random colors. All right, and we've got a pretty good looking image. We've managed to clean up all that color noise, and from something that looked like it wasn't possible to salvage it, it's managing the image is looking pretty good, and you've got like a nice skin tone. The final thing I might do with this image is just give it a bit of sharpening, because the problem with noise reduction is it does tend to take away a bit of detail. So what I can do is just add a mask in the sharpening. So I'm holding down the Option key and just sliding across. I just want to sharpen around the eyes. So where it's white, it will now sharpen, and where the image is black, it's not going to sharpen, and then I can bring in some sharpening there, and that's looking pretty good. And finally, for subscribers to my newsletter this week, you would have also received a set of noise reduction presets that I've created that will just do exactly what I've explained for you. So there's three presets in total. So here's my image without the noise reduction, but it's had the exposure adjusted slightly, so you can see the noise there. So you've got a few different options here. There's Pixel Botox Light, which if I apply that, it's going to remove the color noise and just smooth the luminance noise there. If you have an image that needs a more extreme noise reduction, I've got Pixel Botox Beverly Hills, which you can see there in the skin tone. It's actually smoothing it out a lot more. So if you've got an image that has a lot more noise in it and you want to have a smoother appearance, you can go with that. And then finally, there's Pixel Botox Beverly Hills Sharp, which does all of those things, reduces the color noise, reduces the appearance of the luminosity, which is the look of grain, and it also adds a little bit of sharpening. So there's three presets that you can play around with there.